So you like Ninja Gaiden, but do you know the story that takes place? In this video, we're going to discuss everything that happens. So before the Ninja Gaiden Black or Ninja Gaiden Sigma game, there is a lot of stuff that takes place before in ancient times, and I want to go over it before we get into actually what happens in the game, so that way everything connects. In the beginning, there was a being called Gurdu, and they are responsible for everything that exists in the Ninja Gaiden universe. Also, it's worth noting that Ninja Gaiden Dead or Alive and the Neo series are connected under one universe. Anyways, a video for another time. So Gurdu goes on to create different deities. These are shown as statues in Ninja Gaiden Black. With all of these deities shaping the universe, Vigor would have their own plans and start to corrupt this world with its darkness. This would then go on to overwhelm Gurdu and most of the other deities, except for the Serpent of Life. The serpent would plant the seeds for life and create the 13 divine dragons. These dragons would face off against the evil deities like Vigor himself. Knowing defeat is certain, Vigor would use the last of its power to begin corrupting the weakest of the divine dragons. This dragon was aware it was the weakest of its siblings, and with the manipulation from Vigor, this would dwell in its jealousy to eventually transform into the Black Dragon. This dragon would turn the tides and begin facing off against its sibling divine dragons. And then with victory in its grasp, the divine dragons would use the fang of one of the dragons to create the dragon sword, a blade that we will get into more in a bit. Then with their remaining spiritual power, the dragons would empower the most powerful humans to help them in the fight against the Black Dragons. These humans would be known as the dragon lineage. Between these empowered humans, they would be able to defeat the Black Dragon, and it would become their goal to destroy all evil. Eventually, the dragon lineage bloodline would find itself in the Hayabusa Ninja Clan, where we begin with Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden Sigma interchangeably telling the story. So the opening cutscene explains what we talked about with the Dragon Sword, and then we learn about the Dark Dragon Blade, which was created by using the bones of the Black Dragon. It also has a seal that holds back significant evil power. If this seal was to be broken, it would cause the wielder to become the devil incarnate. The game starts off with the latest descendant of the Hayabusa Ninja Clan, Ryu Hayabusa, who is also the main protagonist throughout the Ninja Gaiden series. Ryu starts off beneath a fortress as he has been summoned by his uncle Mirai for a meeting. Once Ryu gets to Mirai's training room, the two square off to see Ryu's skill. After they are done, the two sit down to chat. In this discussion, Mirai realizes that Ryu is wielding the Dragon Sword, and notes that Ryu's father must be out somewhere to leave the sword in his possession. Ryu shares that his father is out training, and that he left the sword with Ryu temporarily so that he may protect the village. Here, Mirai talks about its sister blade, the Dark Dragon Blade, which was forged from the souls of the Black Dragon when it was defeated. Ryu reminds him that this blade is protected within the Hayabusa village, and its evil power is contained. Mirai shares that it is a shame that the blade must be hidden away, and that it's wasteful to leave it like that. Then he gathers himself and tells Ryu that it's none of his business, as it is an affair within the Hayabusa clan, one that he is not a part of. As the two continue talking, we see Ayane, a kunoichi or female ninja, running up to share the grave news to Mirai that the Hayabusa village is under attack. She then realizes that Ryu is here, which means that none of the Dragon Ninja are there to defend their village. This prompts Ryu to head back to see what has happened. As Ryu makes his way back to the village, he encounters several samurai and disperses throughout waves of attackers. He eventually finds that Ayane was able to get by all of these enemies and try to face off against the samurai dressed in black armor, and warns Ryu not to fight him. Knowing his responsibilities to protect the village, he continues through the village to eventually find the shrine that keeps away evil objects is on fire, and his childhood friend Kiraha, who is also the shrine maiden who is responsible for protecting these items, is falling towards Ryu, grasping the Eye of the Dragon that we will elaborate on in a bit. Kiraha sees Ryu and is able to protect the Eye of the Dragon and dies right in front of Ryu. We then see the cause for the attack on this village, and it is the samurai that is in black armor like we just learned about, but for a face, he has blue fire behind his mask. This being is known as Doku, Lord of the Greater Fiends. At this point, Doku has acquired the Dark Dragon Blade, and Ryu knows he needs to stop him. The two face off in the courtyard and have a couple exchanges. Then Doku and Ryu clash once more, to Ryu being defeated and killed. After this, Ryu is saved by a falcon and brought back to life. Now with a vengeance, Ryu recovers with Mirai and learns about who the attackers were, and his next destination is Tyrone. Mirai notes that the quickest way for Ryu to gain entry is by the air, and Ryu takes a blimp. While progressing across the sky, the blimp is attacked, meaning that word must have got out that Ryu survived and is on his way. Ryu would face off against tactical soldiers and then the top-ranked soldier on the attack, Dynamo. Ryu is able to defeat Dynamo, but this causes the blimp to reach critical mass and explodes. The distance Ryu was able to travel was just enough to sling him across power lines that connect to Tyrone, and he gains entry. Now in the town, Ryu needs to find out information on the location of Doku. He eventually finds Muramasa's shop to see what intel can be gathered. Muramasa is known as a legendary blacksmith and swordsman, and tells Ryu that the best place for him to find about Doku is at Han's bar. As Ryu is exploring the town, he finds corpses from those that are not soldiers from Tyrone, but of a village arch-enemy, the Black Spider Clan. Throughout the game, you are able to pick up their journals, and you learn why they are in Tyrone in the first place, and who they are. Ryu eventually gains entry to the bar and sees a fiend for the first time. We also meet Rachel, who claims she is a fiend hunter, and tells Ryu that if it was possible to defeat Goku, she would have done it years ago. Rachel shares that she has a twin sister by the name of Alma, who was corrupted by Doku into becoming a fiend. Then also shares that she herself has fiend blood in her veins, and that is how she was able to defeat fiends as well. Rachel also shares that his answers are likely somewhere in the cathedral and has heard a rumor that there is a tunnel there. Rachel ends their conversation because she can sense fiends throughout the city and intends to defeat them. As she leaves, we quickly meet Gamoth, who is very mysterious, and tells Ryu good luck on defeating Doku, meaning that he was eavesdropping on the conversation. Ryu leaves the bar and works to find this tunnel. Rachel, in the meantime, slays fiends and finds a cathedral. She then reads some of the literature in the library and learns about two ancient fiend sisters by the names of Ishitaros and Nietzsche. At this time, Ryu eventually finds the cathedral and finds his tunnel. He makes his way through to find a bone fiend, and when he defeats this fiend, it falls off a cliff and smashes the floor beneath, unlocking a new way for Ryu to investigate. Making his way through, he finds a pathway, gains pieces of a stone tablet, and statues of the deities we mentioned earlier. Making his way up to the cathedral again, Ryu is met with a powerful fiend by the name of Alma. No words are exchanged, just a battle that most Ninja Gaiden players would note as their first biggest challenge in the series. As the two fight, the power of Ryu and Alma exchange completely destroy the cathedral, and then Rachel swings in and kicks Alma. Ryu, believing that she is going to finish the job, lets Rachel continue, but Rachel hesitates and Alma escapes. Here it's confirmed that this fiend was Rachel's sister, which we knew, but you didn't know the name at the time. And Rachel was chasing her before they both met at the cathedral. This destruction set off a military alert within Tyrone, and Ryu goes to the military base to handle this new threat. As Ryu leaves destruction in the military base, he returns to Tyrone and finds himself in the sewers. After navigating through the labyrinth of sewers, he faces off against Pazu, a fiend that blocks the path, and Ryu is able to defeat him. Ryu then makes his way through the new area of water that surrounds Tyrone, and this eventually leads Ryu to a courtyard that Doku is at with Rachel as a captive. When Ryu was heading to the military base, Rachel is in the broken cathedral and was approached by Doku. She attempted to destroy him with her hammer and was quickly defeated by the Lord of the Greater Fiends. Ryu and Doku square off, and Doku mentions that he was sure that Ryu was dead when he left the village. The two face off with Ryu being victorious, but he knows his mission isn't complete and tells Doku to tell him where the Dark Dragon Blade is. Doku shares that this is with the Holy Vigor Emperor and that Ryu won't be able to do anything to stop it. Doku then explodes with energy and tells both Ryu and Rachel that it is time for the awakening and flies away. Rachel seems to have an idea in what the awakening is and immediately leaves. Making her way to Tyrone, she is able to spot Doku and begins to follow him through ancient portals. Eventually, she finds herself in a trap and has to face off against the two ancient fiends that she read about before. After her defeat, we see Doku with these fiends taking Rachel captive again. Ryu makes his way through ice caverns, fire caverns, transverses the sewers, and has the final piece of the tablet, which is located in the middle of Tyrone, and he is able to assemble the tablet together, which takes him eventually back to the Hayabusa village. And then Ryu is able to learn about the Eye of the Dragon, which is the last piece that the Divine Dragons provided to the dragon lineage to help them defeat the Dark Dragon and evil in general. We learn that combining this jewel with the Dragon Sword, it will become the true Dragon Sword. and is capable of unimaginable power. So when Ryu heads back to the Hayabusa village, he heads to the cemetery, and we see Kuroha has been buried here with the Eye of the Dragon on her tombstone. Ryu takes the jewel, knowing Kuroha was still protecting it, and Ryu will need it to defeat what is coming next. With the portals that were opened by Doku, Ryu is able to find himself in a new area, and in the distance, he sees Rachel chained for the awakening. Ryu, realizing what is happening, begins to dart across the field, and he is stopped by a weakened Alma. But Doku begins to transfer Rachel's energy to Alma, and the twin fiend transforms into awakened Alma. Ryu, with the true dragon sword, faces off against the more powerful Alma one more time. In the climax of this fight, Ryu is able to defeat Alma, which starts to allow Alma to regain consciousness of her original human self, and Ryu races to save Rachel from Doku, but Alma is quicker here and puts herself between Doku and her sisters, saving Rachel. Alma does not survive, and Ryu continues on to have his last battle with Doku. Navigating through a fiend-infested labyrinth, Ryu eventually finds Doku, and the two have a climax to their dispute. Ryu is able to defeat Doku again, but in his dying breath, Doku casts a fiend curse on Ryu, likely how he did with Alma. This causes Ryu to turn blue and gain some fiend-like attributes. Knowing he still needs to pursue the Vigor Emperor for the Dark Dragon Blade, Ryu continues on to the tower that requires the different deity statues that Ryu has been gathering throughout this journey. Fighting waves of fiends, Ryu has one last statue he needs to obtain, the evil deity of Vigor. And this one is defended by Marbus, the last greater fiend. While entering Marbus's lair, Ryu comes face to face with the ancient fiends Ishitaros and Nietzsche and is able to defeat them before finally fighting and defeating Marbus, which gains access to the last statue and then allows Ryu to have access to the Vigor Emperor. As he was climbing the stairs, everything crumbles beneath Ryu and sends him into darkness. He wakes up in a meadow of flowers and sees the Dark Dragon Blade floating above a large statue. As Ryu approaches the blade, the Emperor awakens, and the two set off to end the fight for the Dark Dragon Blade. After a few phases of the Emperor, Ryu, with the true dragon sword, is able to vanquish the Emperor. This then causes everything around to begin collapsing, but Ryu is able to grab the Dark Dragon Blade and is cured of his fiend curse that he had, and while trying to escape, Rachel swings down to save Ryu before a volcanic explosion destroys them. The final explosion causes Ryu to lose grip from the Dark Dragon Blade, and it flies above and impales the ground as Ryu and Rachel finish the last bit of climbing that they need to do. As they approach, they are greeted by Gamoth and the Dark Disciple, who have been spying on Ryu during this entire journey. The Dark Dragon Blade is then picked up by this mysterious figure, and he notes that the Dark Dragon's power is wasted on Ryu. Gamoth then shares that their plan is finally complete as they kicked off the entire story, and here we learn that the Dark Dragon Blade gains power with blood and death happening around it, which was caused by Ryu in his vengeance. And then after explaining the goal of the Dark Dragon Blade, the Dark Disciple destroys Gamoth and reveals himself to be Mirai. Along with this, he breaks the seal of the Dragon Blade and begins his transformation to become the Devil incarnate. Ryu and Mirai face off, and this version of Mirai is way tougher than the first time he faced him, but in the end, Ryu is able to be victorious and Mirai is gone. Now, understanding how powerful the true Dragon Sword is, Ryu kicks up the Dark Dragon Blade and destroys the evil blade in one swing. If you are confused on how Gamoth and Mirai can claim that they kicked off the whole Dark Dragon Blade incident, let's walk through it. Mirai has knowledge of the dragon lineage, the dragon sword, and its evil relics like the Dark Dragon Blade. Mirai was also a part of the Hayabusa village at one point. So eventually, Mirai starts his own village, but wants the evil blade. So he waits for Ryu's father to leave the village for training, and then lures Ryu over to claim he's going to be training him. But at the same time, the village is attacked at this opportune moment for the Vigor Emperor to eventually retrieve it. Mirai then provides Ryu with the details on where he needs to go, this being Tairan, and then Mirai simply watches to ensure Ryu is continuing as Mirai planned. Then he knew that he would defeat the Emperor and was waiting to grab the blade. And that's how they kicked off the whole story. So to wrap this up, Ryu then returns to the Hayabusa village and returns the Eye of the Dragon to Kuroha's grave. This leads to Ninja Gaiden DS or Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword that was available on the DS. So in case you remember that the Spider Ninja Clan was in Ninja Gaiden Black, but know that we never talked with them or even fought them, why were they even in the game with any lore? So what they wanted was the Dark Dragon Blade, and the ninja that were sent on the mission were not aware on why their leader wanted it at the time. And we learned later in some documents that you can recover throughout the game that the ninja leader who wasn't Genshin wanted it for tea. Yep, pretty funny, kind of lame. Let me know if you like this kind of content, and feel free to drop a follow if you want more. Appreciate you, and I'll see you next one.